Welcome to People Doing Good for Others. Welcome to People Doing Good for Others, where we celebrate and praise and hold in the light those who truly make significant contributions in our communities. I'm Gary York, and I'm grateful to be with you today, and I want to thank Wilkes Communications, RiverStreet Networks, and WIFM for this opportunity, and thank you again for choosing to spend a few moments of your life today learning a new person. He's a special guest, and his name is Joe Rankin. He's the chief of police with the town of North Wilkesboro. He grew up in Gastonia. He's also a retired 30-year member of the North Carolina Highway Patrol, and he was a driving instructor there and had a wonderful career of mattering in the lives of others. So good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
Joe
you.
Rankin, Chief of Police of the town of North Wilkesboro. So let's start by, you shared with me earlier about seeing a trooper's unmarked patrol car, and at 5 years old, you just knew what you would do in life.
Yes, sir. It was a relative of mine, and I was very small, 5, 6 years old, and it was parked at my great aunt's house, and I snuck out and got in the car by myself and looked at everything, the radar and the blue lights, and it just clicked. And from that point forward, I knew what I wanted to do in life. The pepper spray that was in the car, I didn't know what it was, and I sprayed it and it got in my eyes, and I never told anybody because I knew I'd get in trouble for being in that car.
Yeah.
But that what I knew then, that's what I wanted.
So you went a little bit about your career in public schools and eventually in the Highway Patrol. Go there if
Yes,
you
sir.
will.
Well, like I say, I was born and raised in Gastonia. I was a member of Gaston Life Saving Crew, which is a rescue squad in Gastonia. Was that from about 77 to 80, probably 82 or 83. And in seeing that and being exposed to the different things that I saw, how tragic things can happen so quickly through that rescue squad, it reinforced my desire to help people in their need and or to prevent the things that I saw at a very young age to keep people from having to go through that.
So Chief, you came to this service arena where the servant's heart, then you had a basic need to serve.
Yes, sir.
And so from high school until that period between high school and the Highway Patrol.
I then became a police officer for the city of Gastonia. I served with them from 1981 until 1984, at which time I enjoyed that. It was a great opportunity, great place to work, but I still had that desire in the back of my mind. I wanted to be a state trooper. And I was able to apply, and lucky enough I got accepted.
Tell us about the application process and the interviews a little bit, because it's really intense.
Yes, sir.
From what I've learned, and a person's character must be above all others. So tell us a little bit about qualifying to be a North Carolina State Highway Patrolman.
Yes, sir. It took me about a year and a half. The process took that long. From when I first applied until I went through patrol school. They do an extensive background check on you. They go and they talk to all your childhood friends, your teachers, your acquaintances, people that you forgot you even knew. And they check and just make sure that you're the quality of person that they want to hire. And then you have to go through strenuous physical tests, psychological evaluations. It's a long, drawn-out process, but they want the best that is out there, and that's what drew me to them. And they make sure that when they have an officer, they're the best that they can be.
I feel that we are that is an elite group of people that serve nationwide. there's a certain value about it that I think is very unique.
Yes, sir.
And is that part of what drew you to it?
Yes, sir. The capability of helping someone in their time of need, the capability of being, and that was one thing that drew me to the Highway Patrol, is making the road safe, being able to be seen, hopefully to deter people and change their behaviors. That's what law enforcement is you want to change their behavior. It's not to penalize them or things like that. You want voluntary compliance with the laws. And hopefully by the way that you conduct yourselves and the professionalism, you'll be able to gain that.
Wow.
And save people's lives and tragedy. And so that's...
Are those years in Wilkes County, and just a little bit about some of the assignments you might have had that possibly made you the person you are today. Just tell us about just a little bit about what's it like being a trooper.
It's just hard to explain. It's you have the ability, like I said, to affect people's lives. I've been so blessed. When I came to Wilkes County, I didn't know one soul. I didn't even know where Wilkes County was. When they told me in patrol school that's where I was going. And I've been able to come up here and meet so many people, so many friends. But just being able to go out and to the community here in Wilkes, I've loved this place since I came. They welcome you. They have respect for law enforcement. They treat you, you couldn't ask to be treated any better. And I feel like, I have received as much from Wilkes County as Wilkes County has received from me. The way I was able to raise my family here, I get to wake up every morning and look at these beautiful mountains. And I've been extremely blessed to be able to be a state trooper and a law enforcement officer in this county.
Be a good time to share your family with us.
Yes, sir. My wife is retired from the state. She was chief probation parole officer here for Wilkes County, Sandra. She now works with Window World. And then my daughter is a first-year resident at Cape Fear Valley Hospital in Fayetteville, where she's a pharmacist. And she is a preceptor for Campbell University when their fourth-year pharmacy students come to that hospital to work their rotation. Then also she teaches in the faculty for
So her long-term
Campbell.
goal will be as a pharmacist?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And she hopes to be able to come back here eventually once she's going to do another residency, a second-year residency, and then hopefully be able to move back up this area.
So at the end of your wonderful career as a trooper, and first career, and then we're talking about a second career, and how did you get involved with the town of North Wilkesboro?
Well, from being the patrol, I had always had a desire to be a supervisor, but in the times that I came with the patrol, you had to move. They would not let you supervise people that you had worked with. So my option would have been left Wilkes County, and I just didn't. This is where I wanted to raise my family, and this is where I wanted to be, so I didn't pursue that. But I always had the desire to have things the way that I know they're supposed to be and have the ability to do things the right way. So as I was getting close to the end of my career with the patrol and be able to retire, the position of North Wilkesboro Police Chief was coming open and available. And so I said, well, it can't hurt to try. So I applied and was so blessed to be chosen to serve the town of North Wilkesboro as their police chief and their officers.
Joe Rankin, part of that preparation of being chief of police is you talked about being part of a crisis team with the highway patrol and also about being a driving instructor. Let's back up just a minute and share those two things that as a leadership values that really came to you as having opportunities in these two special arenas, if you will.
Yes, sir. I've always liked driving, and I was able to apply and become a driving instructor for the North Carolina Highway Patrol. And what we we taught our own. I'm still talking like I was still employed with them. We would teach our own troopers, and then also we would teach other law enforcement officers. Deputies, city police officers throughout the state, the Highway Patrol will teach them that. So I started that in 1989. And so I was a driving instructor basically my 20 years. And so when I retired from the Highway Patrol, I was the senior driving instructor for the North Carolina Highway Patrol. And that was quite an honor.
So every class you would go down and spend several weeks, or?
Yes, sir. It would depend on what type of class it was. And when I first started, there was very few driving instructors, and we were there every school. But then we got a very nice, able to get a Highway Patrol driving track, a whole facility built.
Wow.
So then it got so big you had to get a lot more instructors. So you would go down probably once a month for a week, sometimes 2 weeks at a time, and that was every month for probably 10 years. And then it started slowing down, and I had asked, as I got closer toward the end of my career, I didn't go quite as much. But it was an honor to be able to teach them, but it also kept me very sharp in my driving skills and helped protect me, when I drove, and kept me sharp in the driving. And then the Highway Patrol had what was called a members assistance team. And what that was a peer debriefing team. The patrol realized the importance of being able to, once an officer was involved in a critical incident, to be able to have them sit down and talk about it instead of just keeping it bottled up inside to where it just ate you alive.
Wow.
So the Highway Patrol developed a team, and I was so blessed and honored to be part of that team. And eventually, as probably 5 years before I retired, I became the Western Coordinator for North Carolina for the Highway Patrol Members Assistance Team. Anything that happened anywhere west of Greensboro all the way to Murphy, I was there and was in charge of the critical incident part of that event. And through that, that and the driving, I was so blessed and lucky. I was had the privilege, the honor to be on site at Virginia Tech, the massacre, the shooting, within hours. Our team was there, and I was one of the team members that was there. And we coordinated with the Blacksburg Police Department and the Virginia Tech Police Department, and we debriefed and helped their officers get through that. We had many, many hours. We were there for about a week, and worked with their officers and their families, and just to help them get through that time. So I had that honor. And then also, at the 1 year anniversary of 9/11, I was asked and assigned to go to New York City and work with NYPD and their officers for that 1 year anniversary of 9/11, because that always, anytime you're in a critical incident, anniversary is the first year, the second year, the fifth year always brings it back. And we knew that was going to be or the NYPD knew that was going to be a
Anniversaries.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So I went up there and worked with them for a week. And in the driving school, I was able to go to Toronto, Canada, and work with their driving instructors. We taught them how we did it. They taught us how we did it, and we coordinated to help each one of us learn. So I was able to go to Toronto for a week and work with them. So I've been very blessed in my career.
Great.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to the town of North Wilkesboro.
Yes, sir.
And after the interview experience, and you were asked to come on board, and what's a day like? That's the question I want you I know you can't say, well, there's no two alike, but what are some of the things you do on a repetitive basis? Well,
I've told a lot of people once I retired from the patrol and got with the North Wilkesboro Police Department, I realized how good I had it as a trooper, because I'm having to work for a living now. Back then, all I had to worry about was myself, whether I was going to go and what I was going to do, my little world. But now, as the chief of North Wilkesboro Police Department, I have to worry about all the officers, what's going on in their lives, their training, their equipment, their budget. That we have over a $2 million budget for the police department, and I'm in charge of all that. And we're a team, we're a family, we all work together. And what I try to do is, on a daily basis, is just be with the officers, see them. Unfortunately, because of the position, I'm in my office a lot, not be able to be out on the road as I was as a trooper. So mine is more administrative now. But going through all the reports, any of the reports that come through the police department, I read every report that comes through, and so that I know what's going on, and our paperwork is make sure that it's proper and send it on. And then one thing that I've always tried to do with North Wilkesboro is to emphasize the training.
Training.
Yes, sir.
And it's an ongoing thing.
Yes, sir. Our officers, we are some of the best trained officers anywhere around. That's one of the things that I learned through the patrol, and then I learned the value of it from times that I wanted to get training that I couldn't get training, or wanted to do things that I couldn't do. And so that was one thing that I taught with our board and the managers that I've had, and they've all been on board that in this day and time, you want to be a professional police officer, and you have to do that by training.
Yeah.
So our officers are continuously going to schools all over the state. And it's the first, hopefully within 6 months of hiring any officer, they go to a 1-week school to the Highway Patrol driving facility. And they go through what I taught, because I know the importance of it, and I know how that will hopefully bring a safer, more professional driver, because that's one of the things of police work you do every day. You think about the guns and stuff like that. Hopefully an officer will never ever use his gun, but for driving, that's every day. So we try to provide them the best training that we possibly can, and give them the best equipment. And I've been so blessed to be under the board that we have in the town. They understand that, and they are able to provide us the funds to make our officers those professional officers that we have.
Chief Rankin, we talked about, or you shared with me, those characteristics of a great officer, and in the interview process, you're looking for certain things.
Yes,
so if a youngster's interested in becoming a part of your department, he or she might want to pay attention to what you're getting ready to say about things that you think are so core in becoming a dedicated police officer.
Yes, sir. To me, and I think to all law enforcement officers, integrity is number one. Honesty. Law enforcement, we are allowed and given such force, or not force, but the ability to actually take people's constitutional rights away from them. We're entrusted with that, and if any time you abuse that trust by not having the integrity or the honesty, then your days or your world as a police officer ends at that point. Because without the trust of you testifying in court and you explaining what happened, you're telling the truth, you're not embellishing, you tell what happened.
Right.
Then the police officer, there's no place in law enforcement for someone that doesn't have that. So the upbringing, being able to communicate with people, that is a must. A lot of times you can get out of situations that are deadly or extremely volatile by using the proper words, the proper verbiage, the proper tone, and calming a situation down rather than antagonizing it. So people skills and communication skills are very important.
Wow.
But their background, their integrity, the way that they're brought up, the way they conduct themselves in the public, because like they did with me, we do extensive background check on all of our officers to make sure that we get the cream of the crop, and that's all we want.
Do you have openings most of the time?
No, sir, not most of the time. Most of the time, we're blessed, we're lucky.
Talk about your staff and folks and things they do. Will you do that?
Yes, sir. There's 25 full-time police officers with us. Then there's 5 auxiliary officers, part-time officers. There's 1 civilian employee, Dina Jones. She runs the place. She's the communications person that gives us all our calls.
Dina Jones.
Dina Jones, yes, sir. And then anybody that comes to the police department, she's the one that talks with them. So without her, we don't operate. So, and then we
Wow.
have our command staff consists of assistant chief and two captains, and then it kind of funnels down there into the patrol division and then the criminal investigations division. So we have supervisors at each level, and then the majority of our officers are the patrol officers, the ones that you see in the uniforms and in the marked
How
patrol
many
cars.
cars do you have on the? Like
We have 8 marked patrol cars that are on the route, in our rotation. We have unmarked vehicles that administrative or criminal investigations detectives have. So we've got probably 15 cars, I would say. So
Okay.
vehicles.
Challenges of just everyday life with a police officer in your department, or what are some of the things that we might not even know about? That just tell us about how things, maybe the difficult times that we have sometimes. Of what would some of the things be that?
When I started law enforcement, they gave me a gun and a badge and a flashlight and said, "Go do your work." And back then, that's all you kind of needed. In this day and time, it's a different world than when I started. Police officers it seems like it's a time that the public is against police officers. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of people who are impaired by drugs or alcohol or whatever. That law enforcement is an extremely dangerous profession now. It's gotten to and you see it in New York, you see it at Virginia Tech, you see it at different places. Officers have been killed, ambushed, just because of what they stand for, just because of the badge that they wear. Not doing anything, sitting in their patrol car doing paperwork, and somebody comes up behind them and shoots them. It's just the officers have got to be so aware of everything going on around them now. As I try to explain to the officers, always expect the unexpected, and then it doesn't surprise you. And that's sadly the mentality that they have to have. They have to be prepared that at the split second they have to defend themselves or somebody else. And a lot of times that's one thing that I like for people to understand. When the officer stops them, or they try to come out of their car, or they put their hands in their pockets and things, to the people that are getting stopped, that's not that big a deal. But to the officer, you could be reaching for a gun. You could be stepping out of that car to shoot me. And it's sad that it has become to that. When I was going in, you didn't have to worry about that. It was kind of a common courtesy that the person driving the car would meet you at the rear of their car as a courtesy, so the officer didn't have to walk up to their car. But now if you do that, there has been so many instances that when they come out of those cars, they're coming out to hurt the officer. So the officers will.
So that's changed.
Yes.
Like to now, you are instructed to sit and wait
Yes,
for
sir.
the person to come to your door.
Yes, sir, and keep your hands visible, because there's been so many instances where officers have been shot or killed by walking up to those cars and things like that. So it's.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want the public to think that we're so aggressive toward them, but it is because of so many instances where officers have been hurt, shot, or killed that we're trying to prevent that and not give any opportunity for that to ever happen. So we want people in the car. We want their hands where we can see them at all times.
Wow.
So just things like that.
Things like that. So if a youngster today, a high school youngsters is watching us,
Yes, sir.
and the preparation that person might make or would have to make to become a qualified officer with you, just give us some ideas of what he or she will need to do.
Okay. Always keep their behavior law-abiding, of course, and be of good moral character. And then once they get out of school, they have to be 21 years old to be a police officer, so they can apply with us. Before you can be a police officer in North Carolina, you have to go through basic law enforcement training.
How long does that take?
That's usually it depends. They have a day class and a night class. The day class is about 2.5 months, and the night class takes about 6 months because you're only going at night.
Okay.
So you have to go through that basic law enforcement training, and then you would apply with us, and we would do a screening interview with you to see if we think you could be a good fit for our department. Then we will start the background check and do an extensive background on them. And then you have to, it's usually about a 4 or 5 month process by the time we do the background, and then we're able to have to send it off the paperwork to Raleigh and then get that back. It takes about 5 to 6 months.
Okay. Say, go back to this character thing. I was talking to a highway patrol person here lately, and you know, there's some, just trying something would be the end of it. I mean, you couldn't qualify if you certain drugs and
Yes,
things. Tell us the reality of that. I mean, if you...
Yes, sir. It's a lot of people don't realize that what they do as a young adult will follow them the rest of their lives. If they commit a felony, which is possession of any cocaine or any scheduled certain
Sure.
drugs,
Yeah.
if they, give a friend something, that's distributing. So those type of things, especially in the drugs or in the presence of someone committing these felonies, smoking crack cocaine or something like that.
Wow.
That could keep them from being it would keep them from being a law enforcement officer in North Carolina. Our profession has got to be as crystal clear and stain free, I guess you could say, as
Right.
possible to be a police officer. So we won't accept that. And so a lot of times people, well, I was just a child or just a kid, I didn't understand. I'm sorry, it's too late.
Yeah.
Because I've had several that really wanted to be a police officer, but because of things that they had done in their past, it was not an option for them.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be, though, because we want the best of the best
Yeah.
in the law enforcement profession. Every profession has its bad eggs and they have to be weeded out, but our profession, we try to weed those out before they ever get there.
Yeah. Coveting public and community support. We hear about or see tragedies, and we see lots of, say, the trooper or the policeman, and what we want is that community support. We don't see the times that you guys are out here changing a tire or helping a homeless person or just standing up for good.
Right.
So just kind of end, if you will, with what a great opportunity it is to be a public servant in public safety. Just talk about that for us, if you will.
Law enforcement to me it's been a calling. It is such an honor to serve the public, and especially Wilkes County. And our officers are able to do that every day in everything that they do. We are blessed, and that's one of the reasons I like Wilkes County so much, to be respected and have that desire for us to be there. A lot of places don't have that. We have support. You hear the media say a lot of times that they're against law enforcement, and the public is, but we continually on a weekly basis, we'll have churches, we'll have citizens of North Wilkesboro bring stuff by, cakes, candy. The elementary schools will bring us pictures that they've drawn, and just in thanks and respect of our department. So sure, we get the negative side some, but that's why I love this place, Wilkes County, so much, why I've never left out of here, because we are so appreciated and respected by the majority of the people, and they show it to us on a continual basis. I walk down the streets, people walk up, thank you for your service. You'll go out to eat or something, and you'll ask for the bill, and they say, you don't have a bill, somebody took care of it. And you're like, who? And it doesn't matter, they took care of it. And it's just people trying to show their appreciation for what we do. And a lot of people don't realize that officers, what all they do, they're away from their families.
Yeah.
On their holidays, vacations, or birthdays and things like that. They miss a lot of those, so they don't get to.
You're on
they have a lot of
24-hour
sacrifice.
call. I mean, basically, when you take that oath of office, life changes.
Yes, sir, it does. Most
And
definitely.
you're always aware that my servant's heart is a vital part of the person that I am.
Yes, sir.
And that we give an opportunity to give, to share, and to care. Boy, I've just been blessed by you today.
Thank you.
Chief Joe
Yes, sir.
Rankin,
Yes, sir.
town of North Wilkesboro and the North Carolina Highway Patrol. It's been a special moment on people doing good for others. I'm grateful that Ken Nolan connected me to you, and he's the manager of Wilkesboro, and he said he's a must. So Joe Rankin's a must. So thank you for being here today, and
Yes, sir.
please be with us next Tuesday night as we share with you those who truly matter, those who care, those who live the life of example and want to do good for others. Thank you.